To be human is to be traumatized. It is part of our human condition. We are fragile creatures wandering through a complex, turbulent, unpredictable world where crazy, dangerous, unexpected things happen. You are a physical animal trying to survive, yet also a psychological man searching for meaning, a kind of story to your life. You get hurt, and some wounds are left unhealed. Over time, they pile up in your body and mind, waiting to be processed. For months, years, sometimes decades, sinking down even deeper, becoming heavier and louder, wreaking repeated havoc on the human organism, mentally, physically, behaviorally. Ghosts, screaming to be released, and as long as they remain trapped inside of you, you remain trapped in the past, frozen, scared, unable to grow into the new, updated, and improved version of yourself. You want to get better, but are lost and confused. You cannot find the source of your trauma, the original cause of so much of your troubles, or you forgot about it, or never even knew it was there. And even if you do find the little trauma monsters, you're not a doctor. You're just a human swirling around in circles. How the heck do you get rid of the trauma? Is it even possible? This is episode number 8, Trauma, the barking ghost of civilized man. Before being able to cure the human organism of trauma, we must first rewrite our stories about what we are. It's difficult to fix a car without first understanding its parts. And likewise, it's difficult to fix a human being when you don't even understand what it is. For too long, we have been trying to operate this human vehicle with an instruction manual for how to be a god, and it's not working. We're crashing again and again, accumulating unacknowledged trauma and breaking down. Of course, it's natural to be confused and lack knowledge. We were just tossed into these Frankenstein-like bodies made up of inherited animal parts with a special human brain on top. Together, this motley crew, this confused monster of a man, must constantly juggle an endless array of challenges such as survival, making sense of everything, and creating a meaningful life story. To make the game even harder, we find ourselves on an alien planet set at level 1000 without any guidebook or even knowing what game we are playing in the first place. Granted, we had parents, teachers, cultures, and religions to guide us along, but the older we got, the more we realized that they too were just as flawed, trembling, lost, and confused as us. We are all lost souls swimming in a fish bowl. Although we look at ourselves in the mirror each day, we still wonder, what the hell is that thing? Who are you? How do I operate this meat-spirit vehicle? It's hard enough not knowing what you are, but on top of all of this, we must navigate through an equally mysterious planet full of other mysterious beings and objects, some of which are dangerous. We are trapped in a constant game of life and death, with no time to slow down and strategize. So don't blame yourself for your trauma and problems. You were a baby thrown into a deep ocean full of waves and sharks. When you encounter scary creatures, face challenges, or get attacked, you still have to keep swimming on. You swim or you die, at least until you find a life raft or piece of land. And the world is only getting faster and faster, louder and louder. There is not enough time or space to heal your broken wounds. The bleeding will just have to be dealt with later. Even if you ever do reach land, find yourself sitting under those palm trees sipping on coconuts, you will have scars, nightmarish memories, and imperfections. You will never be that perfect thing you were hoping to be, but at least you are alive, and provided you can slow down, learn, and understand yourself and your relationship with this planet and everyone else in it, you can heal your past wounds. You can regain some safety and sanity. You can regain enough control over your body, mind, and behavior. Like I said, we were given instructions by, for example, our governments, cultures, and religions, but how are those working out for us? We shouldn't blame them for providing faulty manuals. A lot of these instruction manuals were written hundreds or even thousands of years ago, when there was even less access to accurate data and fewer technologies and tools for gathering, analyzing, and sharing information. We're still a long ways off, but we can always use a personal software update. That's what we must do first. Dismantle and replace the false beliefs we have about this psychophysical organism that we inhabit, this human being, and then later replace them with ones that work a little bit better for us. A lot of the confusion stems from the seemingly paradoxical fact that we are both a mind and a body. We are both human and animal, God and beast, free and determined. We are moving into a future full of possibilities, yet at the same time anchored and controlled by the rocks of our past. Everyone wants a simple answer, especially in the West. Is it yes or no? Black or white? Possible or impossible? We are meaning story-creating creatures living in a meaningless world, and stories must package everything into objects and facts. Even the main character, though ever-changing himself, must have a solid and static identity. Humans get very uncomfortable with unprocessed paradoxes or ambiguities. We cannot bear the discomfort caused by chaos or confusion. Unanswered questions make us very uncomfortable, especially the ones that seem to be a matter of life and death. We need answers. We need order. We need a story to tell ourselves. Therefore, throughout history, we have constantly battled with the mind-body problem, trying our best to define what it means to be a human. We obviously have consciousness and mental experiences. We can't ignore that. That's always there. But we also obviously have a body and physical relationships with other objects in the world. We are both a subjective mental person and an objective physical thing. Nobody wants to be an object, though. It doesn't make you feel very special. It's also dangerous. Objects and things are at the whims of nature. They get hurt and die. So, given the choice between being a rock, tree, animal, or human, we'll usually choose to be a human. Hell, if given the option, we'd bypass all the pain of being a physical organism altogether and choose to be a god, a 100% pure mind. Then we'd be safe and free to do whatever we want. Good news. The human brain is conveniently something like a genie. It can fabricate fictional worlds to match its every desire. So if we want to pretend that our bodies do not exist, that we are not animals, and that we are basically gods, pure spirits and minds, we can do that. Reality will still come knocking on our door, blowing down our straw hat from time to time, physically attacking our illusions, and depending on the severity of the attack, that's when we either change our stories and learn from reality and grow, or just continue on wearing our broken glasses, lying to ourselves, grasping to and trying to repatch our candy houses being blown apart by the honest winds of nature. It's scary to admit that we are animals. It will be way more convenient if we were gods, but you can't always get what you want. The quicker we accept our twisted fate, that this is not a fairy tale, that there is no heaven, and that we are not as special as we thought, the quicker we will all be able to heal and grow. People and societies have been living in denial for far too long, resulting in an overflowing accumulation of trauma. That trauma is the price we pay for our illusions. It's the price of entry to the House of Mirrors. And the longer we stay hiding inside that funhouse, the worse it gets. Sure, it is scary out there in the big, bad, weird world where mind and body are one, where man and animal unite, but that is the only place where we can effectively release our clogged up energy and relearn how to move forward with freedom and lightness. We were not meant to be these frozen, scared, serious statues. Like every other spirit or animal, we are dynamic, adaptive, ever-changing, and growing. It's in our DNA. That energy from yesterday or decades ago was never meant to stay locked up inside of you. Like a river, energy flows. When it stops flowing, the organism dries up and dies. Today, you are this. Tomorrow, you are that. We are like air or water. Energy constantly traveling through and transforming us. When we block that flow of energy, we become rigid, unadaptable, and lose our balance. Holding all that in causes problems inside of us, physically and mentally, which also has serious real-world consequences on the world around us, the people and things in our environment that we touch. All energy, including that which you have accumulated and bottled up in the form of trauma, must eventually dissipate. Either it slowly gets exhaled out in little steam vents, or it explodes out like a volcano. You must literally let off steam, either bit by bit or else in one big series of blows and bursts. We must reunite and remember our single mind-body system, reawaken the animal within, letting it play in harmony with our human mind. Our brain is made of 3 basic parts, each arising from different parts of our evolutionary past. There is the reptilian brain, the mammal brain, and the new rational human brain, the neocortex. First came the reptile part. This we share with snakes, lizards, and dinosaurs. Yay! It houses and controls our basic survival functions such as our temperature, breathing, heart rate, and hunger. Reptiles have been living on Earth for over 300 million years. That's over 10 times as long as humans have. And during that time, they have experienced a lot of pain and suffering. Memories of all those horrible and happy experiences and the lessons they learned from them got physically fossilized into their brains and passed on to all of their ancestors, including us. Within this oldest part of the brain, which includes the brainstem and cerebellum, lives our 300 million year old grandmother, who has more wisdom than our small human selves ever could imagine. This wisdom, these ancient, finely honed survival techniques, are what we call instincts. Without ourselves actually having lived those millions of brutal lives or even browsed through the unwritten libraries of all the lizard biographies and histories, we get the convenient luxury of having all that information pre-installed into our bodies, running automatically and unconsciously in the background of our lives. You might bat your eyelashes at your grandma's advice or look down on the lowly snakes and lizards, laugh at the stupid dead dinosaurs, but Grandma often knows best, especially one as old as this one, and what she wants more than anything is for you, her great-great-great-grandchildren, to be safe and alive. Because that is her entire goal, she will take away your video games and candy bars at any moment if she senses you're in any kind of danger. It's game time. You don't have time for that unnecessary junk. It might feel annoying, boring, or unfair when she controls you like that, but that's her job, and she's only doing it because she loves you and doesn't want you to suffer or die the way her friends and family did. You are her last hope, her best promise of a future. We spoiled modern humans also sometimes need to get our pleasures, comforts, and stories suddenly yanked out from under us and to get bossed around by the big bad scaly granny. And this granny, snuggled away deep inside your brain, is one tough one. When she smells danger or threat, when she sees something her bodily memories have labeled as an enemy, She physically grabs you and forces you to do what she knows is best, possessing you and instantly putting her wisdom into your action. She thinks fast and focused. You think slow and wide. You don't want to bring a telescope to a fist fight. Arms, eyes, and legs have historically been our weapons with the best track record, and Grandma's about to give your whole body a big power-up. Like a very primitive video game character or action figure, she has only one main offense move: fight. And if she doesn't have the strength or confidence to do that, she busts out one of her two defensive moves: flight or freeze. In other words, run away and escape, or play dead and do nothing. These are her three basic moves. Next, right above our reptile brain, there is our mammal brain, also known as the limbic system. Since mammals are social creatures needing each other to survive, they developed their own additional systems and processes for helping them connect with one another. They've been around for about 200 million years, living amongst the dinosaurs even. They started off super duper tiny, mice-like things. To the dinosaurs, they must have looked like little ants, the lowliest cast of extras in Jurassic Park, overshadowed by the biggest stars in the history of the planet. That is, until the big dinosaurs died and they basically had the whole playground to themselves, allowing them to fill the void, evolve, and grow at faster speeds and build their own empires. Anyway, in the mammals' various evolved forms, they've been around a long time. Enough time to learn what it feels like to be all alone, without a friend, cold, and starving on the brink of death, with nobody helping you. The dangerous and also life-promoting experiences these animals found themselves in got encoded into them as memories. These special kinds of memories are what we humans call emotion. Examples of our basic emotions include sadness, anger, fear, shame, disgust, happiness, interest, and surprise. Various versions of excitement, basically. Bodily energy on the verge of action. These are the psycho-bodily programs updated to version 200 million, prepackaged as a gift to us from our mammal ancestors. Like some kind of natural 3D animation software program, they animate and move us. We have words for them, but if you take away the word, you quickly realize these are very much physiological responses and are not trapped inside the head, but instead infused throughout the entire body. They are a middleman, a bridge between our mind and body. Like a centaur, they can both run with the horses and talk to the people. This makes them a key and versatile player on the mind-body team. The newest part of our brain, which I've roughly been calling the human brain, but it's more technically known as the neocortex, is almost a miracle, something akin to magic. It's like a big neural expansion pack, and I mean big. It is about 76% of our brain volume. Without it, we'd probably have tiny little heads like that guy on Beetlejuice. Apes like bonobos and chimpanzees also have a neocortex, but ours is much bigger. This package of extra neurons strapped onto the top of our head gives us a lot of extra processing power, functionality, and applications for collecting and analyzing information, allowing us to better adapt to our environment. It gives us language, words, logic, concepts, rationality, reflection, decision-making, identity, ego, and the ability to time travel both to the past and the future. It gives us imagination and illusions, stories, and dreams. This is what allowed us to rise above the rest of the life forms on this planet, blasting ourselves into the heavens above, where we built cities and skyscrapers. The higher we rise, the higher this neocortex rocket launches us away from Earth, and the more we begin to look down on the natural billiard balls below. The bigger we get, the more we forget our humble roots and our basic fragility as living organisms. Without this superpower, remember, we would be totally naked and vulnerable. Homo sapiens are physically weak, slow, without any fur, no natural weapons or protection like claws or fangs or shells, and we have a relatively poor sense of hearing, smell, and sight. We would be easy prey for the weakest of predators, quickly dead and forgotten. Yes, the reality is that we do have this superpower. We can mentally fly and think like Superman. We can craft stories like Hemingway and songs like Jimi Hendrix. We can stop, pause, plan, and strategize, find ways, and build tools and technologies that let us not only defend ourselves against those predators, but to destroy them and everything else in their path. We are the kings of the jungle, and we're burning the house down. Party in society. This creates the perfect trauma trap, because the fact of the matter is, we are not gods. We are not perfect. We are not 100% responsible for what we do, what happens to us, or who we are. So much of our existence is determined by forces far outside of our godlike neocortex. We do have bodies. We are physical beings playing by the same physical, natural rules as everyone else. We can try our best to ignore those rules and that reality, but that is only going to make us more susceptible to horrible surprises and painful reawakenings. When bad things do happen, which they naturally do, we might, one, not be able to process or make sense of them because such events are so far outside of our man-made paradigms and stories about what is possible, and two, we will not be able to feel, accept, or let ourselves be taken over by our inner animal doctor. Our animal body has natural, built-in ways for dealing with tough situations, channeling vast amounts of energy in times of danger and need, and dissipating, releasing that energy soon thereafter, once things are safe and normal again. Other animals don't have trauma the way humans do. To understand why, try searching on YouTube for videos of animals after they escape an attack. For example, you can type impala trauma release or polar bear not getting traumatized. I really recommend pausing this podcast and watching those videos, both of the impala and polar bear and whatever else you might find. Even if you don't return and listen to the rest of this, those videos speak more wisdom than I ever could. If you watched them, at the end, you will have noticed the animals doing something kind of strange, but so nice, pure, and beautiful. They shook and trembled like there was a earthquake playing out inside of them, had these huge tremor-like movements. The bear then stretched his mouth wide open and made big, full-body breaths automatically, and then he was okay. It was all over, like it was just a bad dream. They each then got up and walked away, like nothing ever happened. Their body processed and encoded the chase, the horrible experience, and presumably grew from it. But mentally and physically, the event was over. There was no trauma. This gives us some insights into what causes trauma in the first place. It's like this. Unexpected, surprising, overwhelming events happen in life. They can be big, sudden events like earthquakes, bombings, physical attacks, or medical procedures, or ongoing sort of invisible ones like being forced to go to church, having to obey arbitrary rules that your inner wisdom disagrees with, not getting properly loved or cared for by your parents, or getting bullied. Even seemingly trivial things like falling off of your bicycle or receiving a bad haircut can become trauma for some people. To keep it as broad as possible in this pre-trauma phase of the process, we can include here any events that include 1, something mentally or physically painful, 2, something overwhelming and disorienting, and or 3, anything perceived as a threat or enemy. Of course, the more painful, overwhelming, and bigger the perceived enemy, the more potentially damaging and therefore traumatizing it can become. But pennies and nickels also do add up. So we should not forget them, especially in modern society where we are basically being force-fed these seemingly small coins, little tiny traumas every day, living trapped inside of an advertisement, constantly getting attacked by uninvited, invasive interruptions, random lights, images, movements, and sounds, like background static to the already trauma-filled dramas of our lives. Our bodies and brains are exploding, and we don't know why. We might rise again as phoenixes, or we might just become ash. Anyway, when any such overwhelming event occurs, the human organism is programmed to first survive the event and then to learn and grow from it. The event leaves a kind of question mark inside of us. If we don't find an answer to that question, it will just be stored away, stuffed into your mind and body. It will sit there and never go away until it gets answered, continuing to eat you up from the inside out for even years, decades. Remember, humans hate and are disoriented by unanswered questions, especially when they come from our own dark, troubled past. Non-human animals really only have one method for erasing that question mark: instinct. First, those instincts trigger off some kind of action, either fight, flight, or freeze, and in doing so, they pump the body full of action-sparking hormones and chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. That creates a surplus of energy in the body. You can call it stress. And so that's why the impala and polar bear were shaking and convulsing after the event. They were simply discharging all that extra energy, letting it go. And not only that, but if you look closely, their shaking movements are not totally random. They look suspiciously similar to coordinated running movements. Wow. Are these animals reenacting the fight-flight response that they wanted to do but couldn't at the time? Remember, the impala originally opted for the freeze response, playing dead. That's why the lion left. Predators don't want to eat dead meat. Gross. Still, no one wants to freeze. That's a kind of last-ditch effort, the last resort. The polar bear only froze because it was shot by a tranquilizer, a cheat code. Otherwise, it would have kept running. And if the big bad man babies weren't hiding in the helicopter, another cheat code, it would have physically attacked those guys. What the impala likely wanted to do was punch that lion in the face, or at least run away. However, like with most prey animals, that's not a very smart move. Freeze, although overall the last resort, is the primary strategy chosen by prey animals. They're just not usually strong or fast enough to fight or flee. Still, they secretly want to fight. They want to run, but their grandmothers within them are telling them, no, it's not a good idea. She slaps this wisdom into their bodies and they must obey. But once the threat is gone, they are free to live out their pent-up fantasies. Through this play behavior / physical reaction at the end, the tremoring and shaking, they are able to both 1, release the clogged up energy, and 2, act out on their frustrated needs and desires, even if it is after the fact, a kind of farce or make-believe. But the body doesn't care whether the story adds up or not. It just wants to complete its task, the fight-flight action, and be done with it. It's like that stubborn boss who just wants you to get the job done, however you want to do it. Reptile Granny is stubborn and obsessed. And until you complete the task, however trivial you might think it is, or how much you forgot about it, she's going to keep coming back asking you to do it until the day you die. That's trauma. This psychophysical organism that we are is a relentless beast. You can never escape it, but you can learn to accept, embrace, and merge with it. Instead of pushing away or ignoring your inner animal trying to tame the beast, you two can hop on a teeter-totter together or scratch each other's backs, play nicely together. If, for whatever reason, the animal inside of us is not able to execute its instincts to answer that question mark, then it has another method. It has the mammal brain. We can use our emotions, use our feelings of, for example, sadness or anger as windows into our trauma. We can express these emotions by crying or screaming or creating art. However, if that doesn't solve the problem, our rational human brain, the neocortex, jumps in as a last-ditch effort and starts making up stories and reasons, many of which end up being inaccurate and damaging. Hopefully, if you've got a healthy outlet like psychotherapy, journaling, writing, meditation, or some kind of creative outlet, the stories might start to become more coherent and helpful. But if not, you're just stuck with whatever weird, crazy stories that your brain creates. It's a survival mechanism that's better than nothing. We need some way to move on. Otherwise, we just stay lying there in the gutter. And convenient little lies and self-delusions are the best tactic that we've got. Like a child with only 20 vocabulary words, an elephant becomes a dog, and an airplane becomes a bird. I was on a first date one time and standing in line at a store, and a little baby girl came up and looked up at us and said, "Look at the mommy and the daddy." I was like, no. Whenever we repress our emotions or instincts, we are basically throwing away trillions of lines of perfectly good bodily code written by our animal ancestors. Even though the neocortex is big and powerful, it cannot survive alone. Life is hard enough with the help of the body. When the various parts of us are balanced up and in sync, why decapitate yourself or sever ties with the wisest parts of you? That's where your most potent healing and learning mechanisms reside. The human brain, the neocortex, can do fancy calculations, packaging, and storytelling, but equally important are the raw physical experiences and memories going on underneath it all. Here's what I think happened. Our egos, which of course live in our neocortex, got way too big. We got too high and addicted on our own supply. The power tasted so good and we wanted more of it. And since we're the ones producing all the beautiful stories, we can crank up the dose, crank up the illusion anytime we want. Whenever the high starts wearing off and we get bored or, oh, God forbid, reminded of how weak, fragile, and insignificant we really are, that we are just an AI-infused animal that suffers and dies like all the rest. No, that feels bad. I liked the other one. What's it called? Neosporin? Nah, neocortex. Yeah, give me more of that one. Okay. Pump, pump, pump. Can you feel it? Can you feel it kicking in? Oh yeah, that feels nice. Who cares about plants and animals? I would never want to be one of those. They're pathetic, weak, sometimes delicious objects. We can control them, use them, kill them. Their lives are brutish and short. Their world a hell of pain and violence. We, however, are gods, living in a shiny, perfect palace, a heaven on earth. We are all powerful, all knowing, and we are never going to die. We are not like all the rest of nature. We get rich, fall in love, and build empires full of treasures and pleasures. Row, row, row your boat. Life is but a dream. We are beyond our bodies. Those are weak relics from our past that we should just try our best to shed and replace. the mind, that golden star on top of the tree, is all that we are. If only our neocortex was in full control all the time. If only we were pure spirit and mind, we could rule the world. There would be no pain, no weakness or death. All of our deepest wishes and desires could be guaranteed by the magic mental wand. Complete freedom and power, like living in a lucid dream. Because we got a taste of what it's like to be a god, and it tasted so yummy, we got greedy and delusional. We didn't want to go back to the harsh, brutal reality of being an animal. Like a mermaid with a taste of life on land, we tried to detach ourselves from our fish body, abandon our whole history of living in the sea, and live in a delusional fairy tale world in which we are purely mental beings. Yet, deep inside our dried out, lonely scales, we know it is all a lie. We want so desperately to feel special, to live as a princess. However, that is not reality, and it will never be, regardless of how much we try to smash the world into a perfect, peaceful circle. The waves come crashing back, our fins gasp for air, our brothers and sisters in the sea beckon us back home. The entire history of the universe is swimming throughout your body. You are built from parts that predate the dinosaurs and even Earth itself. That supposed ego, oh, holy mind that you worship, is as brief, tiny, and powerless as a shooting star. Yet we imagine that it is the king of the world. You can wear your crown. It is useful and allows you to navigate and make sense of this crazy, chaotic world. It's convenient that, unlike other animals, we can redirect the path of our spaceship. We are not forced to follow the programming built into that ship. Like an AI, we can write our own code, create our own paths, and dodge the incoming asteroids, fall in love, and make things. But the ship is still a physical thing. The AI code and software updates built on top of it are only one piece of us. If the ship ignores and overrides its own basic physical, older, primitive structures and processes, 99% of what it is, the metal parts, wiring, fuel, and ghetto, old school machinery and apps inside of it, it will fail. It might keep flying, but it's going to be all wonky and bugged out, wobbling around, causing a big mess. Likewise, if you misperceive your relationship with the outside world, believing that you are invincible, that only good things will happen to you, and the story will continue in the expected, predictable way that it always has, you will receive unpleasant surprises, and the true reality will sometimes crash itself like a boomerang back into your windshield, breaking and flipping over your mind and body. And that's what happens to us when we believe the convenient myths about our body and reality handed down to us by our cultures and religions. If you look at the ancient gods of, say, India or Egypt, you will notice that many of them are half human, half animal. Then, the further you fast forward through history, they start to look suspiciously more and more pure human, more mental. Think of the god of Christianity, a beautiful, tall, white guy. Islam takes it even further, stripping away the physical, human-like shape and making it basically an invisible, invincible mind, but still thinking very much like a human. This infatuation with our human mind and disregard for our animal body only grew stronger as we, as a species, got stronger. Society began gradually to rip itself away from its physical past and disappear into an increasingly mental and disembodied future. Plato was already playing with this idea even a few hundred years before Christ popped into the picture. He imagined a world in while the rational mind ruled over the body and spirit, we still lived in harmony and balance with our entire human self. Mind is more real and important, but the body is part of this temporal reality that we're kind of stuck in at the moment and thus cannot be neglected. Christianity rolled with this idea, but took it a bit further and began to demonize and distance itself from the flesh. Animals and the earth became growingly inferior to the brain within and heaven above. And then in the 1600s, Descartes officially divorced the mind from the body when he proclaimed, "I think, therefore I am." We doubled down on the mind, which allowed us to hyper-focus in that direction, leading to exponential leaps in science and technology, continuing to this day. Darwin came along, reminding us of our animal nature, but we didn't want to hear any of that for a while. Freud was okay because he seemed to be on this new team of superhuman minds. We could do talk therapy while still maintaining the belief in the weakness of the body and power of the mind. Our technology has, meanwhile, kept reinforcing our illusions of grandiosity. The railroads pummeled through mountains. Electricity lit up the world. Medicines cured us from disease. Then we got the internet and smartphones, allowing us to hack the previous limitations of space and time. We were fighting nature and kicking its butt, world champions on a very long winning streak. Well, at least from our perspective. We were nearly invincible, immortal gods. In time, there is nothing we cannot do. Humans, through divine mental force and innovation, can one day transcend the physical world and body altogether. The delusion roars on even louder today. The metaverse, gene editing, life extension technologies, and space travel propel forward our dream of living entirely in the virtual world, away from the finite and untamable past. If only we can download our consciousness into a machine, save our memories in the cloud, and re-download ourselves into ever-renewing hardware, then we will have officially graduated from the body. Our dream come true. We can forever ignore the harsh realities of the past, the brutish animal world we were born into, a world full of predators, disasters, disease, pain, and death. Our narcissistic illusions can become reality, and thanks to technology sheltering us from the horrors of nature, we will be safe from ever having to wake up. Fantasy can replace reality. Mind can replace body. Evolution complete. This just smells of a bubble, one that's been brewing for thousands of years. The fact that we are seriously believing in such a perfect sci-fi future, regardless of whether it's actually possible or not, is proof of how delusional, narcissistic, and out of touch with reality the human race has become. The more we overinvest in the mind and neglect our body, the more fragile we actually become. We can only hide from the harsh realities of being a physical creature in a physical world for so long. Whether you're a human or a bear or a cow or a tree, reality can punch you in the face at any moment. It's going to beat us all up repeatedly throughout our lives, and eventually we will die. We don't need to fixate on all the negative. The earth is not trying to be a bully, but we must at least believe in and recognize that negative, painful possibilities exist. The more we see them coming, the less shocked and surprised we will be when they do come. The wider we open up and connect our stories to the rest of existence, both the good and the bad, the happy and the sad, the beautiful and the ugly, the more smoothly we will be able to bounce back from adversity, and the less trauma we will accumulate along the way. Trauma is merely a result of our body and psyche not being able to handle and process the incoming threats. Like all living things, we are automatically programmed to seek survival and growth. And like muscles, we cannot grow without first getting wounded. The unpredictable outside world seems to attack us at times, blasting us off of our perfect, beautiful path and shattering our expectations and orientation. When things hit us unexpectedly like that, we naturally shut down our slow human brain, our neocortex, the thing we thought was all-knowing and all-powerful, and instead fire up our fast, machine-like reptile and mammal brains hidden underneath. These original brains of ours have inherited the memories of thousands of lifetimes. Through their endless past battles, they have learned the wisest of survival techniques. These are our instincts and emotions, and what we naturally resort to in emergency situations when we are confronted by enemies or threats. Unlike the newer human part of the brain, the neocortex, these parts mostly run automatically and beyond our control. This is especially true of the reptile brain. It is smarter and faster than us and just wants to get the job done. No time for rookies in situations like this. Our body knows it's best to rely on its tried and true ancestral bodily wisdom in the most important of moments. There are 3 ways we respond to a threat. Remember, 1, fight, 2, flee, or 3, freeze. Because humans are both predator and prey, depending on the situation, all 3 of these are part of our arsenal. Fight and flight being more predator instincts, and freeze being a prey instinct. Here is the important thing since we're talking about trauma. Your body must complete an action in response to the traumatic event. Once you pop, you cannot stop until you finish the entire confection. Otherwise, the event keeps looping and running in the background, controlling you. So, if you freeze, one way to complete the action later on is to reenact the physical movements and play like you are completing the action. If you want to learn more about this, read or watch anything from Peter Levine. Man, I wish he was my grandpa. What a kind, wise, peaceful man. The grandpa model that I received instead was a rigid, like a rock, trapped in terror and trauma, stuck in a messy spiderweb full of Mormon, World War II soldier, Great Depression ghosts. I guess you gotta just take the family you were given though, regardless of any defects. But I secretly wish Peter Levine was my grandpa, or at least my friend. We're so lucky in this modern day to have instant access to videos and books. Peter can be everyone's grandpa now. I hope he doesn't get mad at me for insinuating he's kind of old. Okay, well, he could be my brother. Yeah, that's perfect. Actually, I think I like that even better somehow. God, I miss my brother. I hope he's okay. That's a vicariously induced trauma looping loudly in my head these days. Sometimes I literally cry in my sleep, dreaming about him. Anyway, where was I? Right. You must successfully complete the action. Freezing doesn't count. It's just an act of procrastination. Charging your credit card, which you must pay back later. If we don't, our brain and body will think that it's still in the dangerous situation, that the threat is still there. Your memories of the event will be splintered, shattered, and scattered around inside of you. They will therefore keep looping, trying to organize themselves into a nice, clean, coherent package, and the physical stress response, much like a software program, will keep running in the background, eating up your memory and battery, making you feel and behave inefficiently. That unresolved, uncompleted action is what we call trauma. So trauma is both in the mind and the body. We are one organism, mind and body fused together in a single system. And together, we, the organism, are just trying to find meaning in our suffering in order to continue to survive and grow. It's not anyone's individual fault that they experience dangerous, unexpected situations. Getting hurt is part of life, and it's also not your responsibility to immediately be able to fully process everything that happens to you and know how best to act. That's why we have the body, which is automatically wired to overcome stressful situations, and why we have experiences, education, and memories allowing us to learn, grow, and move on with life. You will get hurt. You already have many times, many episodes of which you've forgotten and not yet dealt with. This is the never-ending destiny of all living things. However, when those wounds heal, if you let them, you wake up stronger. But when they don't, because they're too scary to look at, difficult to process, or your culture says, no, that's weird, they fester and pile up in your body and mind. Like unpaid debt, they accumulate and get worse. Chronic problems arise. You feel heavy, all clogged up and stuck, trapped in your past. secretly frozen as a stunted old version of what you once were, alienated from yourself. Yet, despite this stress and your lack of time and energy, you still nevertheless need to constantly plow forward through the complex adult world of modern life, only adding even more stress and making things more difficult. We could all use a little breather, a timeout to help us recuperate, but that seems to be a luxury that not all of us can afford. We are like a society of broken bumper cars stuck in a giant traffic jam, all crashing into one another like it's some kind of video game, not even knowing that we're in cars or how to drive. We're just bored and having fun, trying to black out the pain. In our virtual world, our imaginations, we see ourselves as birds in the sky, not understanding we cannot fly. Underneath the facade of enemy objects out there, the other birds, the bad guys, exist, traumatized people just like ourselves. We are the mirror on the wall, looking outward at what gets distorted as other, and society becomes one accidental mass suicide, us slashing at each other and in turn wounding ourselves. We need to get our glasses fixed, find a better instruction manual, try something new, or at least pause and take a breather altogether as an entire society, because this is not working. Even if we don't experience severe trauma directly ourselves, our loved ones and fellow humans are, and all of that ricochets back at us. The closer you are to the person being traumatized, the harder you also get hit. It is no coincidence that mental and physical illness are so prevalent today, especially in the West, in countries like the US. Sure, sleep, nutrition, overconsumption, and relationships have a lot to do with this, but even these are really just other versions of trauma. Society and self-induced, but trauma nonetheless. The body doesn't know the difference between a mosquito and a Dorito, a tiger and a tweet. Regardless of our religious affiliations, we must learn to temporarily set aside our existing values and beliefs, especially the ones that seem to be harming us and everyone else. We need to open ourselves up to the possibility that we were wrong about reality, about who and what to trust, and about what is good and bad. You're already off to a false start when you start labeling things as good and bad in the first place, because everything contains both elements of dark and light, good and bad. Nothing is 100% good nor 100% bad. If we stop blaming and judging and start forgiving, then maybe we can start accepting the healing, life-changing gifts that are wrapped in devil's clothing. Regardless of our cultural norms, we must also allow ourselves to experience and express both positive and negative emotions. Here in Japan, they've got it real bad. Nearly zero emotional expression. For fear, it might cause ripples in the water, feelings of discomfort, or relational conflict. Better to keep it bottled up and rampage through pornography, get drunk, or jump in front of a train. It's sad. We're so scared to challenge social norms that instead we numb ourselves with addictions, living in a colorless la-la land, or even worse, kill ourselves, either in a single act or slowly over time. The Japanese society is so peaceful on the outside, very little violence, theft, or crime, so maybe there's just less stress, trauma, and emotion for them to process and let out. Or the hot springs and karaoke rooms have special extra healing properties that I don't know about. But something tells me there is a storm lurking underneath this silent koi pond, a secret hidden pool of psychosis and sadness. In the West, especially the US, it isn't much better. People feel pressured to always keep up a positive front. Whenever someone asks, "How are you?" you have to say, "I'm good." Any honest answer revealing that you're not okay will freak people out. Men must be men, and everyone must act happy, yet also tough. We are all trembling inside underneath our solid exterior, terrified and distrusting of one another, walking in a war zone, expected to act like everything is all fine and dandy, caged creatures within the emotionless zoo of society. We are aliens within our own skin. We feel alone, like we are the only ones suffering. But as time goes on, we see our brothers and comrades get wounded. We get wounded ourselves. The blasts never end. The matrix cracks open, starts glitching along with those blasts, but we are so distracted by our own bleeding and the poisonous potions and promises they keep feeding us, pumping us full of drugs, food, sex, entertainment, and work, numbing us, distracting us from the fact that we don't need more. We already have enough traumatizing junk that we need to process and toss in the paper shredder. Yet they keep dangling even more pleasures, escapes, and toys in front of our tired eyes, pressuring us to wear these rose-colored glasses in a toxic wasteland. Our bodies and brains are about to pop. Over-medicated, over-addicted, we are dancing on the edge towards death and insanity. If we are going to heal as a culture and nation, and groups and organizations have trauma too, we need to accept the reality and begin to dig through the trash. Turn off the noise, become more honest with ourselves and each other. Our eyes might see beauty and perfection, but our brains are ticking time bombs. Are we ever gonna stop and try to diffuse them? Or are we gonna keep telling ourselves, oh, no, I'm fine, I'm good. Look how much money I made this month. My house is clean. My car is brand new. I'm fine. I don't want to talk about it. Oh my God, that's so great. I'm so happy to hear how happy you are. And oh my God, your dress is so cute. Where did you get it? And all these repressed emotions, traumas, and memories are manifesting themselves in the form of chronic disease, mental illness, homelessness, violence, crime, conflict, and madness. I think this is part of what Sartre meant when he said that hell is other people. When we are around others, it's much more difficult to be ourselves and behave naturally. You often find yourself having to restrain your natural instincts and emotions when out in public, on the street, at work, at church, in the supermarket, anywhere around others, even at home, where you thought you were safe to finally relax into yourself. Your wife and kids come nagging, knocking on the door, judging, expecting you to be a certain way, to be perfect. But you cannot be a perfect father, mother, brother, or sister. You are a family of children. All of society is. People expect us to be perfect, and then we put that expectation onto ourselves and our life. But life is messy. We are animals. We do dirty and disgusting things and have many weaknesses. That's okay. Tigers shit, barf, and cry, and they cannot fly, scratching and clawing for their lives until the day they die. The mouse is too small. The bear is too big. No showers, no clothes, no job, no house. Out there in the wild, homeless, dirty, raw, cold, and vulnerable. Not trying to be perfect and pretty, but just trying to survive, to be okay and alive. Remember the animals next time you're holding back tears or you're frozen in fear, trying to stop yourself from trembling and screaming like the baby that you are. You are a baby animal. We all are, and we must stop forgetting that. We must forgive ourselves and one another for these imperfections that we did not even choose. If we can remember who and what we are, fragile creatures in an alien world, and learn to listen to our bodies, we can finally begin to rid ourselves of our past traumas, thereby lightening our load and rebalancing our body and psyche. And meanwhile, prevent ourselves from amassing such large trauma loads, getting into such mental, physical debt in the future. You cannot control or predict life, so bad and scary things will happen. You yourself will do bad things too. There will always be surprises that we don't know how to deal with. So there will be wounds. But if our mind and body are connected and communicating properly with one another, those wounds can be processed and healed much more quickly. We can shake or scream off our past pains like animals and create stories that our bodies can actually believe. Modern man is a civilized man, doing what he is supposed to, but not what he should. Social pressures have created a meaningless magnetic vortex in our lives, stripping away our freedom and authenticity, turning us into belligerent, obedient drones, and traumatizing everyone in our path. Of course, we shouldn't break laws or hurt people. We need to be nice, but we can question, analyze, and break societal assumptions sometimes, especially when they're hurting us. There is no need to be nice to norms if they are no longer serving us, or worse, killing us. Sure, we want the larger social organism, our society with its structures, companies, and governments to succeed and continue to take care of us. But when that comes at the sacrifice of our own individual immediate well-being, you might need to rethink your strategy. Ideally, we can serve both society and ourselves. But if you have to make a choice, go straight to the solution. Help yourself. Trust your body over your culture. Better to be weird and healthy than impressive and sick. Break the social script if it makes you happy and isn't harming anyone. Live like a rational, emotional animal. Society has told us to suppress and hide certain emotions. Unless you are a baby, do not cry. Do not exhibit any sign of fear. Even from childhood, especially if you're a boy, you're told not to show any emotion, not cry. This starts transforming beautiful, free-flowing creatures into tough, hardened, emotionless men. Nowadays, girls and women are being put under just as much pressure. If you're the supposed big sister, poor you. That was not your fault. You were likely expected to act like an emotionless, perfect adult clone of your mommy from the day she had her new baby. You suddenly became an extension of mommy, her little helper, expected to somehow know how to be just like her. You are not a baby anymore. You are an adult. It's about time you start acting like one. Stop it. Stop your crying. Go to your room. But you were forced into an impossible video game and blamed for losing, which probably traumatized you, and you're still living with it because you were a child, helpless and confused, in need of simple love and care, but stranded all alone with the one person you trusted and needed making fun of you, bullying you. Forgive yourself. Forgive your parents. You were just a child, and so were they. We are all lost children deep inside. And when a child falls or bruises his knee or just wants an ice cream or hug, he cries, trembles, quivers his little lip, takes in a few deep breaths like a scared puppy, and gets over it. Forgets the whole thing ever happened. That is, until he learns to control himself. And that is where the trauma accumulation phase really kicks into gear for a lot of people. Why can't we return to being a free-flowing, self-healing child who plays in the light, jumps over dark puddles, and lives without fear? Our true feelings are still inside us, even when we ignore or repress them. We just have no acceptable outlet for release, and they get bottled up, tightened up, stored in broken jars, gathering dust and poisoning us, sometimes setting off explosions. When you're scared, your body needs to tremble, scream, or cry. If you're being attacked, you need to fight back or run away. When something is funny, roar in boisterous laughter, turning your belly inside out, even if it gets you fired or wakes up the baby. Allow yourself to fully experience the immersive theatrics of cinema and entertainment by crying, screaming, and laughing along with the characters. Your novels should be stained with teardrops, lovers covered in kisses. Your children hugged, strangers smiled at, hands trembling and pounding along with the beat of your heart, the hidden inner world made visible, releasing itself through your body and behavior. We have become so scared of ourselves and of each other, even if you cannot muster the courage to cry or scream in public, and justifiably so because you don't want to get arrested or put in an insane asylum, at least do it at home. If you're single, it's often easier. If, however, you've got judgmental people living there with you, wife, kids, whoever, or no privacy, or these people make fun of you, expect too much from you, get off your butt, you marshmallow, I wish I married a real man, then go somewhere else. Find your silent space where you can cry, shout, or punch something. The shower is a solid place for emotional release. It's no wonder people sing and cry in there. I sure do. Maybe all those drops coming down from above help me forget that the ones gushing from my eyes are not even my own. The locked door hides much more than our naked bodies. The bathroom is one of our last remaining private spaces, our final abode for solitude and silence. Gyms are also pretty good, especially if you're willing to become that guy who grunts on every rep. Release that joy, anger, or sadness through singing, dancing, a game of soccer, or building something. The more your body is engaged, the better. But art, poetry, and music can all help heal that wounded soul. Give your broken, barnacled wings a place to burst open, soften up, and learn to fly again. We have been told by society that certain actions are weak and unacceptable. We need to look big, powerful, and important 24/7. But what kind of impossible game of charades is that? And how stressful. It's like those public bathroom doors in America. Hey boss, I can see you in there in your SpongeBob underwear. We cannot fully hide our weaknesses or secret embarrassing pleasures. Like those gaps in the weird American bathroom door, they reveal themselves through our habits and behaviors. Instead of pretending to be wearing clothes, just admit that you're naked. As much as you can, let yourself burp, fart, scream, tremble, and cry. Even your pet dog or cat, regardless of how strong he might be, allows himself to tremble and shake when there is thunder and lightning outside. You don't want to become a social outcast, but don't worry about that. Surprisingly, you will likely find that instead of people running away, they will start flocking to your honest spirit. And that might encourage other people to start living more honestly too. If everyone loosened up, if being dirty and weak became normal parts of our lives, like spices on a cake or clouds in the sky, then it might be okay. We'd also probably have a lot less trauma with less accumulation and more release. Still, you don't need to resort to spitting on your spouse or pissing your pants. We have plenty of healing techniques that are more effective and socially acceptable and that don't hurt other people. There's no point in healing your trauma if, in turn, it just causes more trauma in other people, animals, and the universe at large. Let's now do a quick overview of some of the ways we can release our trauma. And there are two basic paths out of the darkness. One is top down, starting in the mind and trickling down into the body. The other is bottom up, starting in the body and moving up into the mind. There are also ways to merge these two laser paths together, allowing you to blast light into your being, breaking up your rocks of trauma via a dancing intertwinement of both types of lasers. Let's first look at the top-down approach. This is a standard approach of Western psychology and includes all those mental techniques: harnessing the power of the neocortex, that new thinking, rational, linguistic, story-building part of the brain. So a lot of these practices use words and or imagery. Words and pictures are our built-in knives, our axes, allowing us to both create and cut away imaginary worlds. They are what saved Viktor Frankl when he was in the concentration camp, and Nelson Mandela when he was in jail. So top-down practices include things like talk therapy, psychotherapy, talking to someone, hell, talking to yourself, maybe making a podcast. This, for me, has been very therapeutic, saving me in these troubled times, letting me finally express myself in the way I always wanted to. Journaling, writing, songwriting, drawing pictures, making art, creating something big or small. I believe that most works of literature and art were actually acts of trauma release. Most inventions, technologies, and companies too. Trauma, when properly harnessed, has immense creative power. Without challenges, overwhelming experiences, and then the resulting trauma being tapped into in the right way, there would be no human race or civilization. No cities, companies, movies, music, books, sports, or any of that. There would also be no mental prison or hell, the ones that we build and keep ourselves hidden inside. So, using your artistic senses and skills, whatever they may be for you, is an act of processing and eliminating trauma. Your inner artist is one of your primary physicians. He can paint away your pain, package those splintered memories into cohesive, manageable stories, and release you from your past. Not the unrealistic, perfect stories like the ones your culture and parents told you, but real stories full of both demons and angels, darkness and light. Use pictures and words in whatever medium suits you, written, verbal, auditory, spoken, whatever, to put together your broken pieces. But trauma healing is an active action. Simply consuming books, podcasts, or whatever is not enough. Ideas can spark action and nudge you into movement, but we are ultimately, at the end of the day, creative beings. Overconsumption, even of quality information, is only going to make you more constipated, dead, inert, and stuck. You must release that information, that energy which you've been consuming, and do something with it. But the mind on its own can only do so much. And for it to even work properly, it needs to be in tip-top shape. You need nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise, basic self-care. A drunk, fat, sleep-deprived doctor can only do so much. You wouldn't trust him. You wouldn't go to him. He might actually do more harm than good. And the same is true for your inner doctor artist. He has a body. It is your body. So these top-down tactics only work in direct correspondence to how physically healthy you are. Yes, the mind can change the body. Placebos and visualization exercises do work, but they work more effectively. The words and pictures are translated more correctly if the river that connects the body and the mind is flowing properly and not all gummed up and polluted. But before getting into the brute physical solutions, let's ease our way in and first explore the in-between realm where mind and body gently melt together. The practices and action steps here include meditation, breathing exercises, floating in sensory deprivation tanks, chanting, humming, singing, playing a musical instrument, doing yoga, tai chi, qigong, comedy, laughter, walking in nature, or at least without any headphones, rock climbing, hiking, drumming, dancing, sex, kissing, looking into each other's eyes, just being there. This is where your animal and human sides meet, where you can more clearly see and feel both your inner beast and man. Wisdom from both worlds become visible like a rainbow in the mist for a short glimpse of time. Soak in its magic while it's still there. Let it heal you before it fades away and mind and body once again go off on their own separate ways. The best path forward is likely a hybrid approach, embracing both mind and body, clearing up both rivers as they crash into and merge with one another. But if you're only going to focus on one, the body river has a much stronger current, more power and pressure flowing through it. Remember, the nervous system does not just reside in the brain upstairs. The brain and spinal cord make up only the central nervous system, like the main office. But that network of electricity is wired throughout and connecting every part of the city, every part of your body. All of these side cables are what we call the peripheral nervous system, taking care of and clearing out this larger system, closing the overexcited loops running through it and affecting your whole body is a very smart strategy. And all of the body connects back to the brain, back to the mind. So it's possible to bust down the mental dam, the imaginary fortress, from the outside in. Plus, sometimes we just have too much trauma, excess drops of unprocessed energy jammed up in us, like when you never brush your teeth and the plaque hardens and builds up. You can no longer brush it off yourself anymore. Like pipes clogged up, the water overflows and you need to call a plumber. The quickest strategy to getting that water flowing properly again, cleaning out your nervous system, is to just break down that blockage with physical brute force. Don't worry, it's not gonna hurt. It's gonna actually feel really good. Engage in bodily movement. Then, once the energy gets stirred up, reordered, and relaxed once again, the mind, with its words, pictures, and stories, will also begin to flow and emerge more naturally and effortlessly. Your memories of how you got trapped in the toilet in the first place will hit you like revelations from God. And even if they don't, it won't matter. Either way, you will be set free. There are low to medium level physical exercises for tapping into your peripheral nervous system, turning down the volume and putting you into a more relaxed state. And there are stronger, more straight to the point ones that literally blast your energy out like a laser hitting kidney stones, but without any medical equipment necessary. You can blast apart your trauma rocks with the built-in hardware of your body. Some things you can do to get this laser beam fired up include stretching, foam rolling, jogging, swimming, jumping on a trampoline, lifting weights, getting a massage, acupuncture, doing martial arts like karate, taekwondo, aikido, jiu-jitsu, or kendo, or light sports like golf or tennis. Let your body fly like a bird as your mind enjoys the beautiful view. There is also somatic experiencing. That's the Peter Levine stuff that I was talking about earlier. Reconnecting with your body and living out in an almost role-play-like way those overwhelming events from the past that are trapped inside of you. Shake it out like the impala. Stretch your jaw. Run around and punch the sky. Kick your attacker off of you while you scream and cry, allowing your body to release the excess electrical charge while your mind completes the story. You are physically breaking apart the sharp, fragmented energy dirt clods locked inside you, and at the same time, mentally reconstructing them into a sandcastle, a story. You can finally organize the previously torn up, flying around papers into a single book, and then close that book and move on to a new, hopefully happier one. You've been frozen by that jumbled up children's horror story haunting you like a killer clown for so long. It's time to tape up the pieces, look at it, learn from it, and then throw it in the fireplace where it belongs. somatic experiencing can help you do this because it's almost like a VR, virtual reality simulation that fools you into an immersive mind-body blend of understanding. It reconnects you to your long-lost haptic suit, allowing you to re-inhabit your body and fight off the memory of your enemy once and for all. TRE, or trauma releasing exercises, are also great. David Berceli is the guy behind this. He's my other uncle, brother, father. This whole podcast today was actually sparked by my reading one of his books called Trauma Releasing Exercises. I was originally planning on hopefully interviewing Dr. Levine or just doing a simple summary and analysis of his book, which is already short, concise, and very well written. But instead, what happened is all of this. Other ideas about trauma and my life came bursting out of me, and I didn't want to hold down the flames and fireworks. I wanted to see them and play in them. I might still do that book summary or interview episode later, but that can wait. His books are already out there in the world, and there are also tons of existing podcast interviews and YouTube videos with him available to you at any time. Plus, there are thousands of TRE practitioners around the world to help guide you. Yes, I'm starting to sound like an infomercial, but it's good stuff. This episode you are now listening to was more like a dream bursting forth, a live meteor shower that I could either experience and capture and record or just let disappear into the void. I decided to record it, and I'm glad I wasn't too scared to go down that more treacherous path. I am learning a lot, and I hope you are too. Just as David Berceli's ideas set off a firestorm of ideas in me, transporting me into depths I never knew existed, some of the things I'm saying here might do the same for you. Even if you think you're not an expert, you are. Your body is. You've had experiences. You've experienced the colors of life, both dark and bright. You are a mountain, inside of which lies hidden caves full of magical creatures and treasures and wizards, ones that you've unconsciously been creating this whole time. Everything you'll ever need is there within you. Listen to your inner wisdom, and ready-made, custom-tailored solutions to your problems will deliver themselves directly to your door. So yes, read books, have teachers. They can pass their spark of wisdom onto you, light your torch. But then it is your turn to take that torch and light up the frozen statues of wise men within you. TRE is basically a set of 7 exercises that cause your body to shake, tremble, tremor, whatever you want to call it. They're pretty simple exercises that you can do at home, but it might be worth getting a trainer for the first couple of sessions. When I first read about these exercises, I was like, what? That's it? Aren't these just normal stretches? I've been doing these my whole life. Well, yeah, they are stretches, but prolonged enough, held long enough to where your body starts naturally, unconsciously shaking, just like the impala and polar bear were. The exercises here are centered around activating your pelvis area specifically, where a lot of your peripheral nervous system resides, and therefore trauma energy is trapped inside. Natural shaking induced by these exercises can help break apart and release all of that. Think of that shaking that occurs when you're planking or holding a squat. These are ways for you to turn on your body's natural mechanism for dissipating the locked up, stressful energy. Your culture and ego are like big hands or fingers winding you up tighter and tighter like a wind-up toy. Keep that going, and the knob is eventually going to snap off, and you are going to break. Let go of it. Let it go. Let the toy that you are shake and move the way it was programmed to. Don't try to control it. Let your animal do its thing. Just watch and experience your body releasing all of that stored up energy, all that trauma. At first, yes, you will shake and maybe laugh, but these silly movements are what will crack open that dumb toy you've been trapped inside and transform you back into your original self. The shaking is only a prelude to a much bigger performance, the spectacular, unique performance that is your life, the life that you have been waiting to live. You never wanted to be a frozen toy sitting on a shelf performing meaningless actions. Like Pinocchio, you just wanted to be a real boy, a human. Shake off that fake wood, let the splinters fly, and feel yourself come home into a body that dances, creates, and cries. Say goodbye to the days locked up as a jack-in-the-box and welcome in a colorful new world where scarecrows have brains, trees can talk, the Tin Man has a heart, and you create your own yellow brick road. Even if you don't know why you have the trauma or what caused it, it doesn't matter. This is going to help wipe that recycling bin clean, and then it won't even matter what was in there in the first place. It might help to know, and it might be interesting, but it's not necessary. The body can override and rewrite the mind. You can watch videos of TRE on YouTube with humans shaking like animals. It's not some freaky religious cult. It's your body being normal, doing what it's been waiting to do ever since you first had that overwhelming experience. It wouldn't even look weird if you yourself weren't brainwashed by a weird, overly self-conscious culture. Instead of continuing to cram that energy from that event into your body, from your pelvis to your neck to your shoulders, looping that dark matter again and again like a roller coaster stampeding through you, making you puke, you can shake it off, release it, clear that body out, and get off that stupid ride. TRE and other body-based exercises are ways to hack and speed up the whole trauma release process, like taking a hammer and giving it a good, healthy whack on the knee, pushing you into the cold water and making you swim. God, I love metaphors and analogies. Have you figured that one out yet? But I can't help it. The more life goes on, the more I realize this is the language that naturally flows through me. And the more I trust it and embrace it, the more I feel at home as myself. Listen to your own natural way of being. Hug, trust, and embrace it. Ride it like a flying dinosaur. Leave your old world behind and see where your inner beast takes you. Open the floodgates. Let your inner rivers flow in harmony with one another. Forgive yourself and your enemies. Remember, none of this was ever your fault. You are a child doing the best you can. Your misjudgments or instinctual reactions say nothing negative or positive about you as a person. When you get rained on or day turns into night, you don't blame, shame, or beat yourself up. It's not about you. It never was. You are part of this larger Earth, Milky Way, mysterious universe energy system, and in order to survive as part of it, you must suffer and then learn and grow from that suffering. That is your biological and spiritual imperative. It is in your DNA and soul. All of those supposed bad things that you did or that happened to you are lessons, exercises to quickly tear you down and then build you back up into an even stronger and wiser spirit than before. Your body and mind each have their own unique learning styles and techniques, but this is a team project. The marketing and engineering teams must work together if the company is to survive and thrive. The rider needs the horse, and the horse needs the rider. Every Michael Jordan needs a Phil Jackson, and vice versa. Batman fused together with Robin, you will be the ultimate superhero, a bad guy fighting machine. Together, you can double your speed, triple your efficiency, quadruple your happiness, and become something entirely new. Best of all, no more drama, no more separation. You can feel whole and complete again. Return back home. Wow, what a journey that was. If you listened to that whole thing, thank you. I love you, and thank you for loving yourself. In later episodes, I'll dig into more of the specific areas that we touched on today, but an hour and a half is way too long for one day. We are all now getting tired. We all need a rest. Let's cozy up, close our eyes, and settle into a long winter's nap. Enjoy the holidays and see you on the other side.